What about like the Space Force that was announced, which was, I think, a surprise for everybody? Like, oh,
Not
wow,
for us.
we're
We
doing
talked
this.
about it 3 years ago. We said exactly that was going to happen. That it was good. They're going to aggregate all of these secret programs, the lower level programs, and they were going to bring it out under one moniker. And that's what they did.
Are they using it as a shill for disclosure? Like, oh, hey, guess what? We sent the Space Force up to the moon. Golly gee, there's a base camp here inside the
Yeah,
moon
they're
and all
going to do
these.
a rolling disclosure, you know.
I wouldn't say it's a shill, though. I think the Space Force thing is actually the good guys coming forward and saying enough is enough. We need to just barrel through and get this done.
I hope so.
Well, why did the Navy declassify anti-gravity and free energy patents under the name of a guy calling himself Salvatore Pius, which means the savior of our nation?
Which, you guys, is kind of crazy. When I read that, I was like, okay, that name alone seems fake. And how
Right.
did this one guy able to get 2 patents, correct?
Well, no, there's a third one because he also patented a room temperature superconductor,
All
which is
right.
another absolute revolution in technology.
So why was he the chosen one?
I think it's because of his name, but then some of our detractors were trying to say that he doesn't exist. And recently, with thedrive.com, he actually came forward and said, I do exist. He gave us a new picture of himself, but then he released a very, very short statement. And that's all he can say. And he's under non disclosure from the Navy. And then the Navy is saying that the division that he's working for is called something like Strategic Sciences Partnership, but it's SSP,
Oh my God.
right? And then they come out with the Space Force official badge that all the soldiers are going to wear on the day that the new Star Trek show Picard comes out, same day, and the Space Force logo is Starfleet Academy. It's identical.
Right? I saw that. I was like, what?
And
Coincidental?
I think that they're signaling what's going to happen, which is you look at the president's statement that he made at the Davos International Economic Forum, and he is on record talking about that we are going to be getting technologies that people thought would take a century, and it's right around the corner. We have great scientists. They've come up with a lot of stuff that's going to amaze you. You will be totally stunned when you see what's about to come out.
Are all presidents briefed on this?
They get visitations in their office. They
Well,
get
it depends.
extraterrestrials showing up from some of the
Some
briefings
of
I've
them,
got.
yeah. If they're a part of a certain organization, they get those visitations.
Or if the alien is
Otherwise,
Republican or
they get a
Democrat?
series of briefings, yeah.
Let's dive into that black magic money system. Central banks are private companies which run the government, so it's not so easy in our brains to figure out what would a like social what would that look like without having money? What
It's actually not as difficult to understand as we think. One of the things that the secret space program, the military industrial complex, is hiding from us are 3D printing devices like what you would see on Star Trek. So at some point, all of the retail business and the mail order Amazon type business, that's all gone because you can make these materializers and people have them in their house, and anything that you want, you just print it and it makes it for you.
like a chair,
Anything.
clothes, anything.
Any kind of high tech, any kind of cool stuff you might think of, you know, and food. Like
Yeah,
you can
well,
have
that's a different type. You'd have different units, but yeah,
Right.
they print food for you. We
And
use
so-
those in the programs.
And so you can actually use these devices to make other devices like them. And so we could clone out a whole bunch of these, and now everything that you need, the food that you need, the goods that you need, you just print it and you just have it when you want it.
What would that look like? Because money really stops people from pursuing their source-given gifts or dreams.
Sure.
There's so many people I talk to, even on air, that go like, I'm working this 9-to-5 job and I'm getting really bored and I really want to be an artist. But
I think a lot of what we're going to end up doing is archaeology because it turns out, and one of the things Corey's disclosed is there are entire cities, even here on Earth, inside the surface of the Earth, beneath the surface of the Earth, that have almost completely not been explored. And they're huge, and
Yep.
they're loaded with artifacts.
And the ones we found purely by accident, by drilling an underground tram system across the world. But when they were building it across the United States, the big boring drilling machines would drill and bust through into a chamber. They would back out and explore, and they would find a giant city that would be millions and millions of years old and abandoned. Yeah.
And then nobody goes back because they don't have enough staff. So there's enough of this kind of stuff out there that everybody should be involved in archaeology, in my opinion.
Well, it's interesting too of how many aliens have like gone to other planets to kind of steal technology that was left over. You would think by now, with all these years, everything would be gone,
Right.
but it's
There's
not.
so much. Aliens were coming to us back in like the 50s and offering us these beautiful trinkets or what looked like stone tablets or just stone artifacts. And it turned out that these artifacts were like 2 billion years old. They were part of an ancient builder race that used to be here in our solar system like I said, over 2 billion years ago. And it was actually multidimensional technology, high technology that you operate with consciousness.
Oh,
And we had no idea what we were handing over and giving away. We were finding them in these locations that we're talking about.
we're the ones that handed them.
Yeah, we didn't know what we were giving away.
They can manipulate time. They can be used for time travel. You can basically create a bubble of energy in which you are able to fast forward through tens of thousands of years of time safely. And so for extraterrestrial beings, that's a very valuable thing to have, but we had no idea how to use it at the time.
Why are there, let's explain and break it down for people, and this might be a loaded question, but what are the agendas for the aliens that want to help us and the agendas for the aliens that want to hurt us?
I'll give it a short summary, and maybe Corey can elaborate on that. I do now look at this as essentially a validation of what's in religious texts like the Bible, in that the vast majority of extraterrestrial life that's out there is benevolent. The vast majority of extraterrestrials visiting our planet are benevolent, and I mean extremely benevolent, as in they couldn't dream of the way that we think and act towards each other on a daily basis. It is nothing like how they are. Then you have a very small minority, like 5%, that are highly, ridiculously satanic evil. And then it turns out that these beings use us on Earth as proxies. So if you are receptive to the negative, they will contact you. You might be drawing a pentagram and summoning them, and then you'll see them appear in the pentagram. And that's the idea of people summoning demons, right? On the other hand, you have the benevolent beings who, believe it or not, tend not to be interested in talking to our governments because they're so far lost that they're not going to get what they want. So they will contact private individuals who have what they consider to be the right vibration.
Mm.
And that's how they want their message to get out.
Got it. Like what happened with Corey.
That's right.
Right.
Despair of being allianced. And have they contacted you anymore, or that was it?
That was after the big event, the
Right.
big meeting that they disappeared from. I've never seen them again. They've appeared to me in dreams, working with my, I guess, higher self, subconscious, but no,
And what density were they?
the sixth density. They were extremely advanced beings. We would consider them angelic.
Wow. Which many people maybe in the past have called things angels, but could just be high density beings.
Right.
What number does it go to, you guys? Those are 6.
Sixth is the highest that ever works with humanity. And then seventh is like basically the last stage that you go through before you reunite with the one infinite creator, which is pure white light,
Source.
intelligent infinity. This is all material that's in the Law of One series, which came through from 1981 to 83 through L&L Research. I lived with them for 2 years. And Corey Good's contact appears to have been with the source, the same beings that wrote the Law of One, which I had been a scholar of since 1996.
They confirmed it.
And they had an encyclopedic knowledge of this material that was beyond my level of knowledge. So when Corey would get things, I'd have to go back to the books and then discover, oh yeah, okay, it's over here, and I'd have to look it up.
Right. That was a great connection episode. That one where you took the Law of One and connected it to his testimony.
Oh yeah, we have a lot of that.
I was like, that was awesome.
I want to make sure that if somebody's watching this and that they don't know what we're talking about, that they can follow this. So when Corey said that there was a final meeting, it's important to understand we had a 3-year arc doing this show, Cosmic Disclosure, which was a lot of episodes every week. Basically 52 episodes a year we were cranking out, half an hour at a time. Corey had a final contact experience that I felt like, okay, it seems like all the beings that you're working with took a curtain call, and it's kind of like the end of the story. And sure enough, after that, it did end up being the last time he was contacted, but he is still getting telepathic dream space type of contact with these beings. And I've had dreams going on 27 years now
Right.
And in my new book, Awakening in the Dream, I'm actually describing a lot of the dreams I've had, the interactions with these beings in the dream space.
He was telling me about it as he was writing it. I can't wait to read it.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, so you're still connected in some way or another.
I
And
would say both of us do have access to these benevolent ETs. I mean, another thing I'd want to point out, too, is that we are not elite or special. This is something that everybody is having to varying degrees. You can write your dreams down in the morning. You can learn the language. In my new book, I'm teaching you what that language is. People do get synchronicities. At one point early in our show here, I happened to look up at that clock, and it was at 11:11. I didn't want to say anything at the time because it's too nerdy, but that
It's
just
totally
keeps happening.
nerdy. I love that so much. Let me just tell you, I am that nerd you're talking about, David. So it would have been totally fine. I do want to mention the Secret Space Program Alliance because I feel
Sure.
like that gives people hope. It consists of Solar Warden, which, to break that down, is kind of like air traffic control for UFOs, but also like bouncers in a bar. But the bar would be like the galaxy, our galaxy. And the Alliance consists of...
She's not stoned, folks, by the way. She's fully sober.
The Alliance consists of Solar Warden and the defectors from various secret space programs who joined in opposition because of whatever fucked up shit was going on in their
Right.
groups. So what are the Alliance goals and what can you tell them, like, hurry up with disclosure? We're all we're all waiting on it.
Yeah, it's a long game that they've been playing, you know,
How long? How long's it been going?
decades. I mean, when I was in the program decades ago, it was like 6 years into my service, my 20 and back service, I found out that they were trafficking human beings to other planets, and they were trading humans for biological materials from other solar systems as well as technology.
Aren't you glad you're watching this show?
You know, people discovering those types of things and not being sociopaths started connecting together and forming this alliance, and they were going to expose everything to humanity. And that's part of what I'm doing.
And is the Sphere Being Alliance part of that alliance, or do they have their own moniker?
No, these are higher density beings that are working together to help raise our vibration so we can ascend, because they used to be like 2 billion years ago. This was their solar system. And because of certain actions they took, they're tied to us karmically. So they cannot ascend and go to the one, become the one again.
So that would be their agenda.
Right. So every being does have an agenda, even the angelic ones. They need us to ascend so they can.